Hello and welcome back to Part-Time Bodybuilder. This is your host, Holly Jean. I am very excited to have Amy Lee Quinn on. She is an IFBB bikini pro, and I will let her do a little bit of an introduction if she wants to before we jump straight into a topic.
I'm going to start by saying my name's Amy Lee Quinn.
Should I get it wrong?
Everybody does, but it's great because now people can hear it. But yeah, I am an IFBB pro. I won my pro card in bikini in 2018, and I haven't competed since then, but I am now 2 weeks out from my pro debut in Portugal. So very exciting, and excited to be here on your podcast.
That's quite a good break, actually, isn't it? Between
3 years.
Yeah. So how are you feeling 2 weeks out?
I feel great. I don't know how I'm going to feel each day. I'll wake up in the morning and be like, oh, okay, it's going to be a tough day today, or it's going to be an energetic day. But in terms of my shape, I feel like I'm in a good place. I'm ready, just need to deplete now. In terms of my mindset, I am trying not to think about it too much. I am so nervous. But I'm going in with no expectations for placing. I just know that I'm bringing better than my last package. So that to me is keeping me going. But yeah, I'm keeping my strength up. Cardio has now come down. It was at HIIT in the mornings, and now it's gone to double steady state. So yeah, that's where we're at. And then fly next week. No, the week after.
You're looking very fresh for 2 weeks out.
I don't all the time. I literally, one day I will look like the Day of the Dead, and I think my boyfriend's labelled it Zombieland at home.
Zombieland, I like that.
But then other days, I like today, for example, I'm here, I'm talking to you. It's the weekend. England are playing. I'm training today at a good gym. There's nothing to be sad about. So I may be tired, but one step at a time.
All is good. Do you feel you said you're nervous, do you feel any kind of pressure going into your pro debut, or not? Do you think because you've had some time away, it's almost like a fresh slate?
I don't feel pressure. No, I don't feel any pressure really, because I'm not putting any on myself. However much I could put pressure on myself, because people are saying to me, you know, this is your best package, you're gonna do really well. And I'm like, it's a massive show. These girls are professional athletes. They've been on the professional stage before. So I do feel a bit of pressure in terms of people telling me that it's gonna go well, sort of thing. And I'm like, well, what if I fall over on stage?
You won't fall over on stage, you'll be absolutely fine.
But in terms of no, I think the pressure you put's really on yourself. It's what you take from what other people say. So instead of taking it as pressure, I'm just taking it as like a compliment. And I think anyone's going to be proud of where I come, because they've seen my graft, if that makes sense. A lot of people have been able to follow my journey. So yeah, I think pressure comes from yourself more than externally. It's how you interpret what other people are saying to you. So
yeah, I think you've got to take the good and the bad with a pinch of salt, because you know, if everyone's telling you you're going to win and you take it all on board,
I'm not going to go into it. If someone says to me, oh, you're going to win, I know that person might be just doing it to G me up. So I'm not going to go with the expectation I'm going to win or I'm going to place. Or on the flip side, a lot of people have said to me, don't go with any expectations. It's your pro debut. You probably won't place in your pro debut. And then I don't want to go in with that mindset either. Because I'm like, I'm going in to be my best, to try and win. But if I don't, I've done my best. So I'm happy.
I think
And
there's a level of calmness that can come with going in knowing you've done absolutely everything you could do.
100%. I think it makes all the difference. You can't sit there wondering what if. You just go, okay, right, I'm ready to go.
And how different has this prep been for you? Because I know you've changed coaches, so you're now with Darren.
Yes.
So has it been a completely different approach this time?
Absolutely. But last time for my pro, when I won my pro card, sorry, I was competing in fitness as well. So I had a coach who was more specified in fitness, and my training was completely different because I had to keep my energy levels up to perform my routine on stage. My cardiovascular I had to keep up, and it was also an amateur show, and the muscle density and the muscle size isn't as much as it is in the pro league. So by doing that training for fitness, I actually ended up with a great amateur bikini competitor body.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't feel like that style of training would suit the professional stage for bikini, because I won my, to anyone listening, I competed in bikini and fitness at the last amateur show I did, and I won my pro card in bikini before I'd stepped on stage in fitness. So I was then not competitive in fitness, and I just did that category for fun.
Yeah.
But I did decide that I really love bikini. I would no way be able to keep up with the fitness girls as a professional, whereas bikini, I think it's just perfect for me. So yeah, now I am focusing on training heavy, keeping my form good, keeping my intensity good, and Darren is perfect for that. He is such a good coach at just making sure I've got enough energy to get my training done. And then I've kept my cardio completely separately, but been absolutely smashing it for those 30, I think 35 minutes is the most I've done in one go. And that will be 1 minute on, 1 minute off hit. So it's been very much strength training is strength training, hypertrophy, maintaining the muscle, building the muscle. Then my cardio has been about getting in that deficit. And then the other thing is my mindset, which has been my biggest change this year. And Darren's been really good with helping keep that on track with cognitive function supplements, and also just generally being there for me. So it's been really, really good. I can't fault him. I've been checking in every 2 days as well, which makes all the difference. I would never stray from my plan. And that is actually the other thing, is before I was macro tracking until 4 weeks out. And this time I will have done 9 weeks on a diet plan and training plan that haven't really changed, only just lowered my food. So, yeah.
I think having that regular contact is so important. Like, I'm checking every 3 days, I think, and I'm 11 weeks out. And I mean, having that regular contact, and things change so quickly. I mean, for you, you're 2 weeks out, so it's a completely different ball game. But I mean, things change day by day, the deeper you get. So having that contact and that
and it's
honesty between the two of you is brilliant.
Yeah, and it's been perfect with things like my cycle. So my last competition, I was on the pill and I didn't know when my cycle was. I didn't know when it was for about 12 years, to be honest with you. And now I am no longer on the pill. So it's really good to check in every 2 days, just so that you know that if you've checked in on a day when your weight might be up because it's that time of the month, you can check in again 2 days later and put your mind at rest 2 days later, rather than have to wait a whole week before you know whether your weight's gone down or whether you look better, or feeling like you have to explain to your coach, you know, my weight's gone up, I haven't cheated on my diet. And I think that understanding my body because before my weight would fluctuate, but I didn't know why, because I didn't know the timings of it. And having that check-in is just, yeah, it's been good for keeping my mind at rest and going, okay, I'm not happy today, but give it 2 days, I might be. And then 2 days later, we can reassess.
Yeah, and you know, you're not leaving it a week then. So if you have had a week of no like movement that when you've needed movement, you don't have to wait a week to find that out and then have to push. Whereas you can kind of go, okay, we've done 2 check-ins, nothing's moved. Let's now reassess and change things.
Yeah.
That's quite nice.
Yeah, definitely. I think the only thing that I would say I struggle with sometimes is like remembering in the morning to like, oh, right, okay, today's check-in day. No, was it? Did I do
I put
it
in my calendar on my phone so it comes up with a little reminder. I'm like, oh, check in.
That is something I should do. But like, I just find that in the mornings my brain is mush now, and I'm like, did I check in today? Have I done it today already? Was it yesterday? Was that 2 days ago? I can't even remember. But obviously I can just check, so yeah, it's not really an issue. I'm
always interested with people who have coaches overseas, because I know Darren's in Dubai. How do you find it with the time difference?
I don't think he's got a time. Like, what's the word? He's always there 24/7. If I message him at 2 in the morning, I'd have a reply within a couple of hours. I was in the shop yesterday and they'd run out of pineapple, and I said, am I okay to have mango? And I knew that if I stood there by the mango, I'd have a reply before I needed to leave. So like, so I'm just waiting. So
there is no delay.
I'm pretty sure the answer's going to be yes, but I'll wait here till I find out. I'm very, very lucky. It's like I found someone who worked for me to a T, and it's been the best thing for me, for the prep, for everything, for my mindset, for my training. I'm still lifting the same weight I was at 10 weeks out, and I'm 2 weeks out. I may not get as many reps, but I've come up with a new formula for how I train. And I wouldn't have been able to do that without having Darren as a coach. But in terms, sorry, going back to your question, in terms of overseas, you wouldn't even know.
Yeah. And I think it is about finding the one that's right for you, because everyone's different. I could look at, you know, and think, oh, Darren's wonderful, I'll go to Darren. And then our personalities could be completely not compatible. So it is, I think you've got to try a couple of different coaches and find the right one.
And I can say from experience, I spent the first 5 years going to any coach who would coach me for free. My first coach kicked me off the team because I posted that I was training with someone else, but it was just like a friendly training, but they kicked me off the team. Also had to award me my pro card. So that was fun. But so that was the first coach, and the second one was the person I was training with, who I didn't know was about to go to prison. So I spent one of the first year, like within my first year of competing, picking up my diet plan from a prison visit.
Wow, that is the first I've heard that.
It was like smuggling it out in my sock, like
got my diet plan.
Literally, I'm not joking. And then after that, it was like, well, this isn't going to work forever. So I went to anyone who would coach me for free, and I can tell you that is not the thing to do. Find the person that works for you. Find the person that not just works for you in terms of being told what to do, that actually wants to listen to you. And you know, I could say to Darren, I know people have seen on my Instagram that I hate cream of rice. And I could say to Darren, you know, I don't want to eat this without feeling uncomfortable. I'd eat it anyway because I would, but I wouldn't ever feel uncomfortable to talk to him. And I think that's going to be one of the main things for anyone, is just find a coach that I think if you're paying them, you feel like you can have requests. Whereas when you're doing it for free, you feel like you can't argue because you don't want to be awkward. You don't want to be a pain when you're not paying them. And I ended up doing whatever I was told. And
I think it's more than that. It's about having, because I've always paid for coaches, but there's some that I feel a lot more comfortable with just being myself and just being honest and just being like, no, don't like that, or no, this training movement doesn't feel comfortable, and not feeling like they're going to turn around and say, stop being a wimp, get on with it, kind of thing. So
I think that was one of the things that helped me to be able to do that, was by knowing that I was paying, I felt like I was paying for a service, so I didn't feel like a burden.
yeah.
Whereas before, I had my last prep in 2018. Before then, it was just kind of take what I could and work as hard as I could and hope that that was enough. But that wasn't the case. It's not about working harder. If you need a rest, you need a rest. That's something I didn't understand when I was younger. I didn't understand that 500 calories of fish wasn't enough to live off. Until I was having panic attacks because my nervous system was messed up. So yeah, I don't know.
So we were saying that you've been competing before we start recording for 7 years, which I didn't realise, which was quite interesting.
No.
So I'm really interested in how you got into it. Like, how did you find competing?
Okay, so this is something that I have never truly properly shared until I just spoke to you about it.
So we've had a bit of a pre-conversation and discovered that me and Amy have an awful lot more in common than we would ever have imagined. So this will be quite an interesting conversation.
Yeah, so I think I said before, do reel me in. I do go off on tangents, but so when I was 18, I was doing fashion modeling, and I really wanted to get into the modeling industry. I wanted to be signed by an agency, and I went to one agency, very similar to you, where I had a really bad experience. I was told that I should stop all exercise because I was holding muscle from doing sports at school. I needed to stop all exercise. My legs were too big. I should stop eating, really, and that pears were going to be my best bet to live off if I wanted to get signed by an agency. I went to weigh and I did that. I would never have called myself, I would never have said I had an eating disorder because I was so aware of the restriction. I was doing it for a purpose, not because it made me feel better about myself. I did it because I wanted to be a fashion model.
Yeah.
And then I went back and I was too short for them. The same agency that told me to lose weight and that they would sign me if I came back said that I was then not tall enough. And this coincided with two other things going on in my life. One was that it's the first time I've said this openly, so I'm sweating, but at the time I was in an abusive relationship and sorry.
No, you're all good. We've both kind of said before this that this is something neither of us have shared before, so bear with both of us, because I will jump in and bare my soul afterwards as well too, because I know it's not an easy thing to do. So
yeah. But yeah, so I was in this relationship, and at the time pretty much everything in my life was being controlled for me. The one thing I could control was food. So for me, fashion modeling, trying to be really, really skinny didn't really faze me. It was like, great, fine. I was still doing what I loved with the modeling. But the income I was making, I had to pass over to him as a fee for me to be able to do what I love. So I felt like I never really owned that at the time. But then I was on his social media doing some things for him. I was trying to build his social media for him, but I personally wasn't able to have my own. And in the time that I was doing that, I came across Michelle Lewin and Paige Hathaway. And I was like, wow, these are models that aren't stick thin. They have, like, they look incredible. And I'd had my whole childhood had been about sport. And then I wanted to do modeling, and it just didn't work to be able to do both. So I thought, perfect, new approach. I'm going to be a fitness model. And that is how I got into competing, because to be a fitness model, I needed to train.
Yeah.
So I said, right, I'm joining the gym. No, you're not. Yes, I am. And by saying yes, I am, I think that was the beginning to me breaking free and starting a very long journey to where I am today. But at the time, I didn't know what I was doing when I did join the gym. And this was the third part of it. My best friend had signed up with a coach because she was struggling with eating in terms of her relationship with food.
Yeah.
And this coach who was helping her with her relationship with food and with training also coached competitors, and that's how I found out about competing. And it all kind of just came together, and I signed up to a show within it, and this one was a modeling show rather than a bodybuilding show.
Yeah.
And I signed up to a modeling show 2 weeks after I signed up with my first coach.
Love it.
And it was a body power, and I didn't know body power was an expo, so I turned up in my pajamas because that's what I'd seen other girls do.
Oh, I love it.
Body power in pajamas. Because I knew I was going on stage. But and I didn't have shoes. I had to borrow someone's as well. I didn't know what I was doing, but it was great because that whole experience just got me to go, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to try, because I can't do this forever. I can't be where I am forever. I've got so much I want to achieve. And just that spark of seeing Michelle Lewin and Paige Hathaway, models that were breaking the norm at the time. Back then, fashion was the only way in, really, or glamour. And we won't go into what I do now, but like at the time, glamour wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to do fashion. I wanted to be a model. That was my whole dream. And now through doing fitness, although it's been detrimental to, I'd say, the modeling income is probably the best way to put it. Fashion's definitely more
where the money is the element.
100%. So I don't necessarily earn nearly as much through modeling as I did when I was 18 years old, 10 years ago, and I was really skinny. But where I'm at today, with how happy I am with my life, I wouldn't change it for the world. I wouldn't change any of it, to be honest with you.
We were both saying beforehand how we've built our confidence through competing. So I will share, because you've shared, and it's something I've not really talked about. I've hinted about it on the podcast before, but I haven't openly talked about it. But very similar to you, started off in the modelling industry. I got signed to an agency when I was 14. So was I 14 or 16? I don't know. I was young, and I got thrown into this world of modelling. Got told I was too big for London Fashion Week, weighed and measured in front of an office full of women, and ridiculed for being too fat, basically, for Fashion Week. And if I dig out a picture, there was no fat on me anywhere. And they had all my measurements beforehand, so they knew they were going to tell me this when I walked in the office, but chose to do it anyway. And that is what the modelling industry at that level is. It's cutthroat. It's, you know, I think things have changed a bit, but at the time, like you say, tall, skinny was what they went for. And so I think
I think Instagram had only been around about a year then as well. It was really, really new.
Yeah, I don't even remember Instagram at that point, so I definitely wasn't on it myself. I never did modeling around the social media era. Probably, I think I was on Facebook, and that was about it.
Oh yeah, that was it, Facebook.
But I started modeling to be confident and almost to like middle finger up to the people at school that, you know, told me that, because I was
Oh my God, me too.
I was an awkward, geeky child. I was painfully thin. I had an overbite. I had 3 sets of braces. So when all the braces come off and I started to feel like I'd grown into myself a bit more,
Yeah.
I started modeling, and it was a finger up to people and be like, fuck you, I am, you know, I am beautiful, or whatever. But it wasn't, it was to prove something to other people. It was never for me, I don't think. So I never really had that confidence, and modeling didn't give me that confidence because, like I say, it is so cutthroat. Luckily, I had the mindset of, I know I'm not fat, so I never went down the route of trying to lose loads of weight or anything like that, because I just knew I wasn't, there was literally nowhere I could have lose fat off, and I wasn't unhealthy at the time. And then I think because of that confidence, I found myself in an abusive relationship at 17. So I think I was at a place in my life, and I've said it to you before we start recording, it's not something I talk about because I don't like being seen as weak, and I don't feel like that person anymore. But it was very controlling. Didn't get physical until the very end, which was the point where I decided to leave. And then what a lot of people don't realize is about leaving an abusive relationship is that actually you're at your most vulnerable when you leave.
Yeah.
So for a lot of these
you don't necessarily know it. You think you're strong because you've walked away, but actually,
well, I think a lot of people say, why didn't you just leave, when actually it's not that easy.
No.
And he stalked me for months, and I never reported him. I used to go to the gym and look in my wing mirror, and he'd be sat in the car behind me. And he used to, I lived in a little cul-de-sac. He used to drive around the roundabout in the cul-de-sac to check that I was in and stuff like that. So it's not as simple as being like, I'm out, I'm done, I'm going.
Yeah.
So that fizzled out anyway. That was a point in my life, and I think I left that with no confidence as well. And something we spoke about beforehand was like getting to this realization that I had to push myself outside of my comfort zone, and I had to do things to build my confidence back up. It was like I was starting from ground zero.
Oh, 100%. But I don't think, I don't know if you found this, but I found that I didn't realize how unconfident I was. I didn't realize how much I was externally looking for validation after that relationship. It would be constantly, am I okay to wear this? Should I do this? Should I do this? If I get my hair done, it might look a bit nicer. If I try and do more for other people, then they might like me more. And it was constant. And I mean, to the point where I forgot how to do anything for myself because my confidence was so external.
Yeah, and I think I've always been relatively shy and never particularly sure of myself. So it is that whole, or if I do more for someone, they'll like me more, or something happens and you instantly take it to heart and think, oh, that happened because I didn't do this, or
and the other thing as well is your body holds on to trauma. So one thing I found is that I have physical reactions to things that I can't control. So something may trigger a memory subconsciously for me, and my whole everything about the way I act, the way I talk, the way I hold myself will change. And I hadn't necessarily realized that that had stemmed from the abusive relationship, into the point where it was becoming part of my personality to just feel nervous. And so right now I'm talking to you and I don't feel physical weight on my chest. Whereas a lot of times in the past when I've been trying to talk, it's like someone's got their foot on my chest saying, no, like, you're not ready to release this yet. And I think well, the subject we were originally going to talk about was why I've had a year off of social media, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that's been part of it, is to just try and understand myself, so that I want to be there for other people as much as I can. But in doing that, I've realized that I needed my own confidence. So yeah, it was all going back to that and realizing that how much of an effect on my life that one thing had, because I've been busy with competing since. So I saw competing as, I guess, a distraction from what that relationship had done to me. Not done to me, but changed me.
Yeah.
And now I find that I think I'm going to be able to, sorry, I'm trying to word this right, be able to help other people and realize that, I mean, if me and you hadn't have spoken, if I still felt like I had that weight on my chest, I wouldn't have been able to open up to you. And if I hadn't have opened up to you, I wouldn't open up on this podcast. And then there may be other people out there who are going through the same thing that might be able to reach out, or have been through the same thing and haven't realized how it can have a knock-on effect, or they might just want some more confidence. And if I could give any message to anyone that's listening right now, is to start with you. So yeah, I think it's been, sorry, I've gone off on a tangent. I told you to stop me if I go off on a tangent.
I think it all leads to the same place, but
it does.
I agree with
I've
you.
kept myself to myself for so long. There's so much to say.
And it's the fear of judgment, and I think you almost project your own insecurities on other people. So I thought by being vulnerable and being open and honest, I see myself as weak because I was in that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably not what other people.
You see yourself as weak, not what other people would think. But the worry is what other people would think. But the only reason you think about what other people would think is because of what you think about yourself.
Yeah. But I also think what we've said before we started recording is that I don't see that relationship as a negative anymore. I see that as a real defining moment in my life, and actually something that I have personally turned into a massive positive, because
yes.
I never would be doing this podcast. I would never be competing. I would never be in the gym. I would have never found something I love. I would never have the confidence that I do now had I not have been through that, because I've had to push myself. I've had to find my confidence again. I've had to find my voice to get to this point.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure I probably would have got there, but probably through a different means. But
I think one of the things that I feel like is that if you don't know low, you can't appreciate the high. And sometimes a lot of people won't get that low to be able to understand the opposite. And I don't think that's a problem. It's like having a smaller range of experiences in life, from good to bad, but you can still be happy within that. Whereas with me, I think because I've experienced that low, I want to go for that extra high. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And the achievements as well that will come with that. I don't know if that makes sense, but
I think it makes you a more resilient person. I think a lot of people who are successful in this game, not saying I'm successful at all because I'm not, but in bodybuilding, I think you have to have a baseline of determination and grit to be able to do this. And I honestly think that through being weak and having them defining moments, there's plenty of them. None of us get through life unscathed.
But the thing is, it's not through being weak, though. It's through being strong in those hard times. It's because we got through those times that makes us able to, and resilience is, I think I put a post up about it the other day, actually, because that's exactly what I've been building towards, is not only physical resilience, but it's mental toughness as well. And I think that can be a massive defining point for the athletes who are more successful or take it a bit further with competing, or just want to keep going for that pro card or for that Olympia stage. I think the resilience is needed, and I wouldn't be able to have gotten to where I did today without being able to know how low I can go and I can get through it.
And that you can get back up again.
Exactly.
And something you said before we
remember.
started recording, we talked for a long time before we started recording, and then we're like, we need to do this now, was about your training and how it's had an impact on your training. I know you train really hard.
So I said about that formula, and the thing that I have gotten to with my training is that I see my training in 3 parts. There is strength, there is energy, and there is mindset. And I try and keep those 3 separate now when I train. So I think as long as I've got the fuel, the energy, I will have the strength. I may not last as long, but my muscle is there. I've built that. I've got that strength. When I'm lifting a set and I'm finding it hard, I think, you know, if a building was about to fall on me and I had to hold it up, I'd do it as much as I could. Like, I would be there pushing my absolute most, so I can do it right now. I think about the times I've been through when, I'm not even going to go into them, but in that relationship, and I think, you know, what I'm doing right now, I would do 10 times over going back to that. Yeah. So I will do it 10 times over. I will push 10 times harder. And it's that mindset that can help my strength or my energy. And without the mindset, I think you can feel like you're not as strong or feel like you don't have as much energy, but actually it's the mental toughness that provides both of those. So now when I'm training, if I'm doing a heavy set on deadlifts or something, it will be, okay, the muscle's there, I know I can lift this weight, which means I've got to get my mindset in place to say, I'm getting this up off the floor. Then it will be my energy levels will be as to when I fail. And that's how I train, with those 3 things. So it's knowing that my muscle's there, having my mindset to say, do you know what, this is getting up off the floor and I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to keep going till I can't do anymore. And when I can't do anymore, that's when my energy is depleted. And it's the same in cardio, just pushing harder. For my hip, for example, it's, I know that when failure is because I can't physically move. So that's my energy gone. If my energy is still high, then it's my mindset that needs working on, or it might be, it's usually my mindset.
It's being able to harness that, like you say, mental toughness and channel it the right way. Yeah. And it's only something that I've started to be able to do recently, because it's finding, like, being able to drive that in the right direction and being like you say, I've done this, so I can do this. And
and it's just again, knowing that you're not going to let yourself down. I think that is, I have to show up for myself every day, because when I wasn't, I ended up in an abusive relationship. When I wasn't, I was bullied at school. When I wasn't showing up for myself any day, I got taken advantage of. When I wasn't showing up for myself every day, I spent most days waking up dreading the day, crying, not wanting to do something, hating training, which is something I love. Like, you've got to, I think, just get up and be like, right, I'm doing this for me, because if I do this for me, I can be better for everyone else. Yeah. And that's been my biggest lesson I've learned this year.
Definitely. Oh, it's so interesting. I can't believe, like, how much we kind of had in common, because we started this off with a plan of talking about maturing through a prep and pro debut, and we've ended up in a completely different place. But I think
it felt so good though, because honestly, this is something that has been my barrier with sharing on social, because I feel like I can't explain why I know the things I know without explaining my story behind it. But how do I explain my story behind it without upsetting anyone, sounding weak, or feeling like people will look down on me for something? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
No.
It really doesn't matter. I don't know, like, now that I've stepped out of that worrying about what everyone thinks cycle, I'm like, I don't understand why I did.
Yeah, and actually I think I've kind of come to the realization of not everyone's going to like you, not everyone's going to listen to me speak on a podcast and like the sound of my voice, and that's okay.
Like, you don't like everyone.
No, exactly.
I've been so guilty of being so upset that people that I genuinely don't like and would want nothing to do with, I'm so upset if they don't like me. And I'm like, but why would I want you to like me? You've got different views on life to me. So
yeah,
of course we're not gonna click. It's a case of everyone can do their own thing. I love everyone as people, but you just need to let people be themselves.
yeah. And vulnerability builds the best relationships. You build the best connections with people when you're able to be vulnerable and open and honest. So hopefully by us both speaking today, someone will listen to this and think, I'm not alone, or I don't have to keep, you don't have to keep something a secret through fear of judgment or whatever.
No, definitely not. So yeah, if anyone does want to reach out to either of us, I think I'd be happy to do another talk with you that's maybe a bit more structured. And I'm terrible. I said before this podcast how much I was nervous, because I know I go off on a tangent, I talk too much, and I get nervous. Like I talk nervously like I'm doing right now.
But I think for both of us, it's not a defining feature, and that's something and I think another reason why I didn't want to talk about it, I don't want to be known as Holly who was in an abusive relationship. I want to be known for who I am and who I am today. I'm not that person anymore. And I'm quite confident and secure in who I am now. I don't want that to define me.
And I think for me, I had to get to the place where I wasn't that person anymore, whereas I probably was for a good 5 years afterwards, and I didn't realize it. But now I'm not. So
I've only spoken to you today and I'm really proud of you.
And you, I can't believe how, oh my god, I just fell off the chair. Sorry. Yeah, I can't believe how similar things are for us, and a similar age as well, and you started competing the year after me, so yeah, it's all crazy, but so good to open up to you and to get to chat to you.
Yeah, definitely. And I honestly, I wish you all the best for your pro debut. Can't wait to watch it unfold. I'm sure there's a plan after the pro debut to do a few more shows.
Do you know what? I haven't looked past this. I haven't even thought about show day, other than organizing my bits. It's one day at a time for me right now. I am focusing on my cardio session, my training session, the meals I've got to eat, and I'm just letting Darren tell me what to do.
I think that's the best way to be, one foot in front of the other, and
just keep going.
So I can't wait to follow the pro debut and watch it all unfold. If people don't follow you already, where can they find you on social media?
So my Instagram tag is @ALQXX.
So I will tag that in the show notes.
Perfect. It's not the easiest one. I haven't changed it since I joined Instagram.
So I'll tag that below. But thank you so much for coming on today. It's been a very surprising chat, but a very enjoyable one.
No, it's been amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure.